This is Jack LaLanne's homepage. It talks about Jack LaLanne, inventor, superhuman, inspiration, nutrition. Okay. Now I'm going to go over a few books of his so that people know the kind of books that he authored and the kind of books that they probably should be reading. So these are Jack LaLanne's books, some of the books that he wrote. I'm going to go to back to his webpage real quick to show you some more. Live Young Forever, 12 Steps to Optimum Health and Fitness, Total Juicing, Revitalize Your Life After 50, Physical Fitness, the Jack LaLanne Way to Vibrant Good Health, Celebrating 90 Plus Years of Healthy Living, for Men Only. The ones that I definitely recommend that everybody get are Revitalize Your Life. I don't own Revitalize Your Life After 50, or I'd probably recommend people get that. I certainly recommend people get Your Figure, Help for Your Waist, Hips, and Thighs. And there's a book that's not listed here. This book was actually offered for free by Jack LaLanne's company. You just had to pay for shipping. This is for mothers-to-be, how to stay in shape so that you don't get fat during pregnancy. You should gain weight. You should not get fat during pregnancy. Now remember, I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, not a dietitian, nothing like that. But the truth is, fit mothers have fit children. This book right here, Setomatic, which is a very thin book, but I recommend this book to anyone, man or woman, that wants to get in shape and does not want to spend a lot of money on a lot of, equipment. This does not require any equipment besides typical household things like a towel, books, things of that nature. It doesn't require much of any equipment. It's very similar in ways to the Charles Atlas program, but it's much, 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 much better in my opinion. And I would highly recommend this. Although Revitalized Your Life, he does give a lot of the nutrition advice that a lot of people might need. This is a good book. And this book, he does give, he gives health advice on nutrition advice on how to gain weight, how to lose weight, etc. But I really think the book Revitalize Your Life gives better nutrition information as per Jack LaLanne as opposed to this book. But yeah, definitely this book I would highly recommend to all men, all women that want to get in shape and don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, a whole bunch of money, etc. Remember, I said that Jack LaLanne was the St. Paul to Paul Bragg's Jesus in spreading the gospel of good health. Let's let Jack talk about that.
Help themselves and to give them the truth, to motivate them, to stimulate them. We all need a little pat in the back. We're all little children. We're all little dwarfs. You know, I'll never forget, just recently I talked to one of the greatest group of, I won't tell you what company, but these guys are all multi-millionaires, all chairmen of the board. And I gave this lecture. And I told you guys, you should be the first ones to work. You guys should be physically fit and mentally fit. You should be dressed to the nth degree. You should be set example for your workers. You know, so many of you out there, you're complaining of arthritis and rheumatism. The only thing you think about is making money. You forget about what you mean to this company and what the people think about you. You've got to give. You've got to get respect from your employees. They're your family. I just shoot them up. After that lecture, every one of them, without exception, they came over and I signed autographs. I said, Jack, I'm going to start working out tomorrow. I needed that more than anything. You were 1,000,000% right. Thank you, thank you. Now it makes you feel good, see? This man's going to stimulate millions, probably thousands of other people.
Now notice that. He's talking about, as Jesus had pointed out in the Bible, being a fisher of men to help to convert other people to the gospel of good health, and then they go and they spread the gospel of good health to others. Jack LaLanne, therefore, is spreading the gospel of good health that was given to him by Paul Bragg.
See, you plant that seed, right? That seed's going to grow. You plant junk, you plant a weed will grow. You plant a wonderful orchid, an orchid will grow. You plant truth, Truth will come out of it. It's all I got going for me is telling those. You know, it's just, you're reaching millions of people. Feats that I've done, proving it at any age, a little harder. Pretty soon the wind subsided, and I finally made it. Care of me. Like I say, if it doesn't work for me, it's not going to work for you. A terrible memory. So I tell the truth. Changed? Think about it. And I think
Here, Jack LaLanne's going to talk about pride and discipline. Let's see what he has to say about that.
when I first started business, way back then, everything was closed. I was born in San Francisco, and you wouldn't be seen dead going downtown without a tie and a coat. My mother would never go shopping without furs and a glove and all made up. Now you see people, they look like bums. That shows that we're slipping. See, we've lost this pride and discipline, like I was talking about. I don't care what you say. You can call it vanity or what you want, but you have to have certain standards. Do you ever watch dogs or cats?
Here he's talking about how animals, this is funny because Anton LaVey in the Satanic Bible talks about this because in Satanism, of course, people are animals, okay? A Satanist sees people as just another animal. But people are stupid. Charles Manson brings it up too. Charles Manson points it out that people are too stupid to survive. And here LaLanne's talking about it, the sense that animals take pride in who they are, what they are. They take pride in themselves, pride in their hygiene, pride in their appearance, because they know that their hygiene is their health.
They print themselves, they keep themselves clean. See, they've got pride and discipline. But people don't have it. You watch some of these kids today. God, they're so fat and out of shape. Every other word, this word and that word, you can't give them any kind of guidance of any kind. They rebel against school. They rebel with their parents and friends. See, these kids, they should be taught pride and discipline. Like I said before, from kindergarten. The number one thing, pride and discipline, taking care of the body and the mind. And we've got to get this in school. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger is a very good friend of ours, and I just love this man. And someday, people are going to listen to Arnold and going to get physical education back in school, start taking care of our kids. Most of the schools don't even have physical education now. You think about it. When I went to school, that was a must.
What does Jack LaLanne claim to be his greatest achievement?
Marrying Elaine.
You have to keep in mind, behind every great man, there is a greater woman. This is that value of monogamy, this value of affection for one another that can transcend age, can transcend time, things of that nature. Let's hear what Jack has to say about that.
You have to think a second. It's the truth. The greatest thing I ever did in my life was marrying Elaine. She has done more for me. She's been with me 1,000,000,000%. Living with a Jack LaLanne is not the easiest thing in the world because I know what I want and the way I live, my eating patterns and everything, and I like to have fun. And when I'm serious, I get very serious. When I live for keeps. I tear the grass in great big heaps. Thank you.
And
look at that person out there. Pull your get in. Straighten up. That's it. I have no regrets. Nothing. The only regret that I had a gym in my
How did Jack LaLanne start out?
backyard when I was a senior in high school. And I had about 30 or 40 of my friends out selling Jack LaLanne health products, door to door, like Amway. Think about this. And so this went on. And then I had the firemen and policemen that couldn't pass the physical in Berkeley, California. In those days, they had very rigorous physical standards to get in the police department. You had to be 200 pounds, 6 foot tall, college graduate. And a lot of these people couldn't pass that because they were too fat or too skinny. and they'd come to my gym in my backyard, and I would take the fat guys, keep them slim, and the other guys, I'd build them up, and practically every one of them that came to my gym passed the test. And that's something. Then I started out in college. I was going to be a medical doctor. My mother was a strict religious person. She wanted me to become a medical doctor and go to Africa and help the starving the starving Africans. But I said, Mom, there are millions of people in America that need help. Oh, this broke my mother's heart because she was all into this thing, And so anyway, then I went to chiropractic college and got to find out all the workings of the muscles and the bones and the body. Because my whole life, even in high school, I had books on philosophy and psychology and anatomy, learning. The only thing I had in my mind, I wanted to know what kind of exercise to build me up, what kind of foods I should eat. I learned those in my mind, helping these fat people, these skinny people, helping people to feel better, look better, so they can live longer. That's been my whole life. They thought I was nuts. I was strict vegetarian for 6 years. And as I said, I was winning physique contests.
Take note of that. He was a strict vegetarian. A lot of people like to use LaLanne as an example of a meat eater. That's not true. LaLanne did like his protein, but he was a strict vegetarian for many years. And on top of that, he was always somebody that favored his vegetables.
Yes, I had a 49-inch chest and 28-inch waist, 17-inch arms, and I was breaking all these records.
As a strict vegetarian, what today we call a vegan.
And push-ups and doing all these things. The word got around that Jack LaLanne, this nut, he eats nothing but rabbit food, and he lifts those weights. In those days, weights were completely forbidden by anybody. And I was the first one in the world to have women working out with the weights. I was the first one to have athletes working out with the weights. I was the first one to have 80-year-old people working out with the weights. Can you believe this? And the doctors, you go to that Jack LaLanne, you guys, you won't get an erection, you won't be able to have kids, and you older people will die of heart attacks. You athletes, you'll get muscle bound. You won't be able to swim, you won't be able to lift your arms. That's what went on then in the 30s and 40s. Why do you think I did all those feats of strength that I did? The first feat that I did, I swam from Alcatraz prison, which is escape-proof, right? No prisoner ever escaped from Alcatraz. So I put handcuffs on, jumped off from Alcatraz prison, and swam handcuffed to San Francisco. And this made international publicity. And I was 40 years old, to prove that, to swim, you couldn't lift weights. And I was lifting weights since I've been 15. Another thing, 40 years old, you're over the hump, you can't do it. So I proved all these things at once. And boy, the publicity we got. So then every 3 or 4 years, I would think of some feat that was more difficult. And the older I got, the more difficult the feats became.
Here, Jack LaLanne's going to talk about his poor childhood health.
And I would suck on this. This would appease me. And all that sugar rotted out. And by the time I was 4 years old, my baby teeth had all rotted out. And by the time I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I had this uncontrollable temper. I was 30 pounds underweight. On one occasion, I tried to kill my brother. And another time, I was thinking about suicide. You can't believe it. It was a hell on earth, absolutely. Then when I was around 14 and a half or so, I was a troublemaker in school, couldn't participate in sports because I was so skinny. And the school authorities told my mother and father to take me out of school, because they couldn't handle me. I was a troublemaker and all that. So I was a shut-in. Here I am at home. And one of our next-door neighbors, her name was Mrs. Joy, she said, Mrs. LaLanne, we know the trouble.
This is how he met Paul Bragg. This is how he met the man who he became the St. Paul of. He became the spreader of Paul Bragg's gospel of good health.
Well, you're having with Jack with his health. There's a lecturer that's excellent at the Oakland Women's City Club. He's a he's a nutritionist and, mostly food, eating good food. So my mother finally talked me into going to this lecture at the Oakland Women's City Club. And the place was full to overflowing. And my mother and I were, we were going to leave because there were no seats available. And the lecture had already started. He said, look, lady with a boy, we don't turn anybody away. He said, ushers, bring 2 seats up, put them on the stage. And there my mother and I sat in front of these hundreds and hundreds of people. And here I am. I'm wearing glasses, pimples and boils, skinny little kid, 30 pounds underweight. I was just so nervous. I was sweating and my head was aching. I knew all those people were looking at me. Little did I know that they had problems too. Anyway, that lecture continued. He was so forceful. He kind of screaming. He says, ladies and gentlemen, it matters not what your present condition is, matters not what your age is. If you obey nature's laws, you can be born again. I like this.
Think about that. If you obey nature's laws, you can be born again. The similarities between what Paul Bragg promoted and what John Harvey Kellogg promoted and what Ellen G. White promoted is very great. Paul Bragg essentially promoted an Adventist way of life, and Jack LaLanne, but this is the beauty of it. Jack LaLanne spread that not as a religious message per se, but as a health message, a message of self-empowerment through self-improvement.
Here on this little weak, sick, terrible kid, this man said I could be born again. I wanted to go out with girls. I wanted to participate in sports. I wanted to wake up in the morning without any aches and pains. This man said I could do it. I went home that night. I'm so enthused. Maybe you know what I was eating in those days? I was a full-blown sugarholic. And if there's anybody that knows what I'm talking about, you know how many people are hooked on sugar? It is as bad as on dope or booze or anything. This sugar destroys the B vitamins and so many minerals in your body. Your mind is affected all the time. You don't have any energy or vitality. I went home that night and I got on my knees and I said, dear God or somebody, I need help. Give me the willpower to refrain from eating these foods that are killing me. That night, I went strict vegetarian because that lecture was a vegetarian. I joined the Berkeley, California YMCA, and the rest is history. Within 2 weeks, my headaches left, my energy doubled, my uncontrollable temper, my God, even like my brother and my mother and father. I was born again. If something saved your life, Karen, would you be enthusiastic about it? That's why I'm so enthusiastic. That's why I go to them lectures. I tell these folks, if you obey nature's laws, you can be born again. How do people die? Most people work at dying. They don't work at living. You got to eat right. You got to exercise and think right. Would you get your dog up in the morning, give him a cup of coffee, a cigarette, and a donut? Why are you laughing? You'd kill the dog. But look at how many millions of Americans got up this morning with a cup of coffee, a cigarette, and a donut. They wonder why they're sick, why they're tired. They're working at dying. I have a new Corvette. Would I put water in the gas tank? It wouldn't run, would it?